Together, we are better. Don't think for a minute this is all about being behind desks. Don't think for a minute this is all about technology. It's about people making connections in ways they have never been able to do before. It's about bringing a level of humanity back to business, and that's why we're here today. All of these numbers are staggering. I'm not going to read them all to you. The point is that we now live in a connected world. Now, we've been in a connected world for a long time physically. We just haven't all had the technology access to be able to connect across those miles in the ways we're able to access today. Sadly, most of the conversation around social media, around social at all, is around social marketing. Selling you, pushing something to you, putting it in your face. The far bigger story is connecting people with people to change their lives, to change their situation, to be able to create opportunities that have never been able to be created before. And I believe that all of us will be speaking to that point. But please, push back on anyone who says it's all about marketing. Yeah, that's the annoying part, but it's not the big story here. Oh, a number I pointed out to Tony when we were talking about this earlier is one that I find gets a little bit more wow value than some of these. And that is I work with several very large insurance companies, and they have pointed out to me that there are more people on Facebook today, not just who have accounts, but that who are active users who check in more than 4 times a week than there are insured people in the US. So we start with social media numbers, and then let's talk at corporate business numbers. 300 billion lost in productivity by people not being engaged at work. They're engaged, just not with what you want or need them to be engaged with. A couple other numbers. 9 in 10 adults trust recommendations from personal friends and virtual strangers over any other source. Yes? See some nodding heads? Yet how much money in every organization is spent on marketing and sales and not on investing in the people who are actually spreading the word and saying good things and caring about the work you do? We need to be thinking a little bit differently about how people are working today in order to deal with some of these sorts of numbers. Open windows, open doors, open as much as you can. One of the organizations I've done some work with is the travel company, Sabre. They create the technology, for example, that when you make a reservation, they have online. And they sent out a message to all, and somebody in the organization was thinking to themselves, I really need an Italian translator. Sounds like an interesting problem to have at work, right? And they had about a $10,000 budget for that translator. What did he do? Sent out a simple micro-sharing message. Micro-sharing would be the equivalent in the corporate world as Twitter, for example. They may have used Socialcast or Yammer or another lightweight little tool, very few characters. Anybody know of a good Italian translator? Simple question. Got an answer back. A few seconds. I grew up in a home, the reply was. I grew up in a home that spoke Italian. I've been wanting to brush up. Would it be okay if I get permission from my manager for me to do the translation for you? It's probably an interaction we've heard many times, just haven't had the means to be able to do it in the past. Yes, in fact, he got permission from his manager. Yes, in fact, he became the Italian translator for things in their intranet. And what did they just do? Save the company $10,000. 1 in 3 business leaders frequently make decisions based on information they don't trust and don't have. You'll be hearing later today from Ben Brooks at Marcia, who can tell the story way better than I can, but who will allude and tell you the story about how they believe within Marcia that they have all the answers within their walls. The question is, how do you tap them? How do you find them? I suspect the answers are within almost every organization that we work with, especially the larger organizations. But how do you tap them? How do you find them? How do you connect them? And how do we obliterate stats like this about people not feeling comfortable with what they know? In a connected world, moments of isolation will seem out of focus. In the back of a courtroom somewhere in Los Angeles, there is someone today, maybe not quite yet, but maybe in about an hour and a half, from the public relations firm Davies. You heard of them? They specialize in high media stories, specifically ones that are potentially dangerous to their clients. It means that they've had some scandal happen in the organization. They bring in Davies and they help with dealing with the situation. And someone's sitting in the back of that room, sitting in the back of that courtroom at Davies, and they are typing, tweeting, or the equivalent of microsharing to the rest of their employees all over the world of what's happening. To some extent, a play-by-play where that is allowed in the room or where it is outside of the courtroom in most cases. And they are sharing with their organization what's happening. They're keeping them in touch with the rhythm of the day as to how things work, of what's happening. They're connecting them with the information they need to make better decisions, to be better informed in order to make better decisions on what they're doing tomorrow. As a result of that, they have identified that their time for people to become productive in their organization has dramatically decreased. We've seen anywhere from 6 months decrease in time to feeling comfortable with the workforce to well over that. We see consistently that when you join a company, you really don't get it. You don't know the pace of how things work. You don't really have a sense as to what's going on and where and who to contact. You see a social network or you see a microsharing bits and pieces, and you get pretty quick about who's doing what and how things flow and how things work, and all of a sudden you feel far more connected in a way that is not so much one you can cognate, think about, but you can just sense and feel. Financial standouts are 57% more likely than underperformers to use collaborative and social tools to enable global teams to work. %2 increase. Oh, we had the number we saw before, actually. Companies with highly engaged employees have 26% higher revenue per employee. Does this make sense? Seem shocking? Seem crazy? Seem new? Too often we have asked employees and organizations to stay stuffed inside their desk drawers. I feel that way sometimes. I can't do this. With social connected tools, with an environment that we reach out to people, we come out of those drawers and we can be our full selves at work. With social technology, you sail further than before, cross the ocean as easily as the hallway. One of my favorite stories is from IBM, where one night a fellow logged into his system and did a global Google search of everything he possibly could find on Kevlar boats. As many of us do, we started at about 11:30 at night. He was meeting with a Kevlar boat manufacturer the next morning. He searched. He found everything he possibly could, and his eyes were getting tired, and he realized this wasn't working so well. So he sent out a simple message. Does anybody know anything about Kevlar boats that I should know for a meeting I'm having tomorrow? Complicated? Again, not so much. Next morning, wakes up bright and early, gets ready for his meeting, and there's a message from someone in Germany who, in fact, not only knew a lot about Kevlar boats, but had worked with this particular company he was calling on, could give him the important points that he needed to cover in his meeting, to connect with the people who cared, to make better decisions, went into the meeting, had a great meeting, and eventually closed a big sale. Closed a big sale. I'm thinking sale. And what happened? He found what he needed in the moment of need. Am I saying for a minute that he probably didn't get a whole bunch of other stuff? No. But if we view these systems sort of like how we used to read the newspaper and we scanned over the headlines and we over time gleaned the important points and we could filter for ourselves what was vital, and that takes practice, that takes building up those muscles, That takes preparing to get better at getting better. He was able to find what he needed in the moment of need. Together, they were better.